Chris Brown and why people think he messed up. Chris Brown says he's tired of the criticism he's received for his role in the 2009 assault of Rihanna, which he described as a mistake at the time. The 33-year-old musician posted a lengthy tirade to his Instagram stories on Friday, accusing people he didn't name of perpetuating the narrative that he harmed Rihanna in 2009. A year and a half later, this love story came to an abrupt end during a vicious dispute that took place inside of Brown's leased Lamborghini on the evening of the 2009 Grammy Awards. Rihanna and Brown got into it when she saw a text had been sent to her by a woman with whom Brown had had a sexual connection. A police report on the incident indicated that Brown threatened to murder Rihanna, strangle her, struck her, bit her ear, and banged her head against the car glass. The report also stated that Brown bit her ear. Both were due to have performances at the Grammys the following day. Both failed to show. It was impossible to escape seeing the photo of Rihanna's injured face in headlines. Brown's once spotless reputation in the public eye has crumbled overnight. He claims that in the aftermath of the event, he entertained thoughts of ending his own life and didn't leave the house for 3 months. During a hearing that took place in March of 2009, he stated, "Words cannot begin to express how sorry and saddened I am over what transpired." 3 months later, he entered a guilty plea to a felony assault charge. As part of his plea agreement, he was sentenced to 5 years probation, 1,400 hours of community service, and participation in a domestic violence program. During the sentencing process, CNN got a report that indicated 2 earlier episodes of domestic violence between Brown and Rihanna. One of these events took place in Europe, while the other took place while Rihanna was visiting her home country of Barbados. During this time, Rihanna, who appeared at numerous of Brown's hearings, stated that she believed the singer had made the error in question because he was in need of assistance. At first glance, Brown appeared to be heading in the direction of a speedy exit from the court system. At the first hearing on his probation, the judge praised him for the therapy and community work he had already undertaken, and she gave him permission to travel outside the country to perform in concerts. The outcomes of his last 3 hearings were likewise favorable, and in the end, the court lifted the injunction that prohibited Brown from having any communication with Rihanna. During this period, they resumed their sporadic previous interactions with one another. He was alluding to an altercation he and his then-girlfriend Rihanna had in February of that year. According to People magazine, he attacked her and sent her to the hospital. Brown was arrested and charged with aggravated assault with terroristic threats. The Guardian stated that he entered a guilty plea in court, sparing him a prison term. He received a 5-year probationary period with 6 months of community service. Perhaps the conflicting reactions to the news that Brown appears on a new song from Chloe Bailey's upcoming debut album, In Pieces, due out in March, inspired Brown's current statements. Some Bailey supporters reportedly went ballistic at the singer's choice to collaborate with Brown, as reported on The Breakfast Club. The Forever singer said that some white superstars dated minors and engaged in violent behavior, and he wondered where the cancel culture was for them. "There will be no more fake love from me," he clarified. "Keep out of my path or you'll be run over." The history between Brown and Rihanna has been brought up again, and not for the first time in recent weeks. Brown apparently showed her support for the Fenty creator by posting a story on Instagram that said "Go Girl" alongside love and prayer emojis during her Super Bowl performance. Chris Brown scored another Billboard Hot 100 Top 10 in March 2001. The Grammy-winning singer was accused of punching a lady at her Los Angeles home during an altercation 3 months later, according to numerous media outlets. Brown has been accused of assaulting women for over a decade. The most publicized instance featured his ex-girlfriend Rihanna, who became a symbol of domestic violence when an attack photo of her was released to TMZ the night before the 2009 Grammys. Brown entered a guilty plea to charge of criminal assault. Glenn argued that the physical violence alone should have resulted in a much stronger sentence, which may have helped him understand the severity of what he had done, and that society would not accept it. God knows what Rihanna experienced in the weeks and months leading up to that. The emotional abuse as well, she said. Even while many Brown supporters have stood by him and said that it's time to move on, it's unclear what, if anything, Brown could do to win over his critics, or whether his career can be salvaged at all. Chris Brown's critics were never convinced by his attempts to face up to his mistakes. His 2-minute apology to Rihanna may have been heartfelt, but it pales in contrast to the cruelty that is plain to see in the photos of her injured face that were released. Others felt that by accepting a plea deal that did not officially label him guilty of his crime, but did include community service, 5 years of former probation, and domestic violence counseling, the performer was left off the hook without being truly forced to acknowledge the impact of his actions. However, if Brown's following actions had shown any sign of maturity or self awareness, he might have been able to shut up his detractors for good. Brown has shown no public regret since 2009, and he was wrong to think that people would forgive or forget his crime as his career and for the rest of the world progressed. Brown made an appearance on Larry King Live 8 months after the event and first claimed he did not recall what he did to Rihanna. He then recanted this allegation in a public statement. In other words, "Of course I remember what happened," he declared. "My mom stated I came to her straight after the interview and told her everything, and she repeated that several times. Still," he said, "that night was and is a blur." However, his inability to accept responsibility for his actions and make necessary changes continues to be a source of concern for those around him. The singer was asked about the incident with Rihanna by Good Morning America's Robin Roberts during an interview in March 2011. His response was to lose it, smash a window, and threaten the show's producer until bystanders intervened and broke up the fight. Under no circumstances is this type of behavior acceptable. But how is it reflective of a person who has learned from past behavior and chosen to resolve situations in a constructive, nonviolent way, given that it occurred 2 years after the assault incident for which he was supposed to take domestic counseling? When Brown tweeted, "I'm so over people bringing this past shit up," he didn't help his reputation at all. Yet we applaud Charlie Sheen and other celebrities for saying utter nonsense. Brown deleted the tweet and replaced it with a more upbeat one within 10 minutes. But his first reaction was the more genuine and natural of the two. Rihanna may have come out of the attack stronger and more successful, and she may have even publicly forgiven Brown. She and Brown, as public figures, have a responsibility to keep insisting that this sort of behavior is intolerable and that individuals should take responsibility for their actions rather than assuming that everyone else will, can, or already has. Actress Karrueche Tran, Brown's ex-girlfriend at the time, filed for a restraining order against him in 2017. Tran claimed that Brown had threatened her with physical harm. Brown was accused of threatening a lady with a pistol at his home in 2016, but he was found not guilty. At a club and a party, Brown is also accused of assaulting a female patron. A woman in Paris has accused Brown of rape in 2019. He was cleared of all charges and discharged. Fans who identify with Brown's Team Breezy moniker have been vocal in their defense of their man, claiming that he is the victim of racial profiling. On occasion, Brown has used Twitter to defend himself. Brown resorted to Instagram to criticize the police after a lady reported he threatened her with a pistol, writing, "Every 3 months, y'all come up with something." He denied the rape claim on Instagram, writing that it goes against his character and morals. 4 months later, Brown and his entourage got into a brawl with Drake and his entourage at a club in New York. Reportedly, the altercation started after Brown gave Drake a bottle of champagne, and Drake, who was seeing Rihanna at the time, received a letter back that said, "I'm fucking the love of your life." Brown and his entourage were enraged. Drake and his crew were also enraged. At a recording studio in Los Angeles in January 2013, Brown was accused of punching and threatening to shoot singer Frank Ocean. The incident allegedly took place after being pursued by paparazzi the next month. He wrecked his Porsche and caused a complete loss. After that, Brown was accused of hitting a lady when they were both inside a nightclub. No criminal charges were brought in connection with any of these instances. After that, the drama escalated in October of 2013 when Brown and his bodyguard were accused of attacking a guy in Washington, D.C. He walked into a photo that Brown was taking with a fan. The incident occurred after the man moved into the frame as Brown was taking the photo with the fan. Brown was required to spend the night in jail after he was accused of striking the guy in the face. Shortly after that, he checked himself into rehabilitation, but he was forced to leave when he was accused of breaking the glass of his mother's car during a session of treatment. He checked himself into a different rehabilitation center, where the staff observed an improvement in his conduct following a change in the medicine he was taking. During the same year, Brown received the diagnosis of bipolar 2, a condition that is marked by alternating periods of depression and hypomania. After being expelled from rehabilitation in March 2014, Brown claims that the incident was staged. He was arrested for a probation violation and sentenced to 131 days in county prison as a result of the breach. Brown spent a significant amount of time in solitary confinement in this facility in order to protect himself from being targeted by other inmates. On June 2nd, 2014, he was granted an early release, at which point he kissed the ground outside of the prison and then proceeded straight to Burger King. But the issues persisted, and the following 2 years were marked by a string of violent altercations in which Brown is believed to have assaulted many people. He was not permitted to go to Canada, Australia, or New Zealand, and he was arrested in August of 2016 following a 9-hour standoff with police at his house in Los Angeles. The incident began when a lady contacted 911 at 3 in the morning to report that Brown had threatened her with a pistol. The verdict in the case has not yet been determined. Chris Brown has had quite a violent past. What do you think Chris Brown is hiding from the public? Is he really a woman beater? Stay tuned for more interesting content and let's discuss below what you think of him.